Palestine, the Israeli occupation forces continue their genocidal aggression in the Gaza Strip, killing at least 93 people. The government of Venezuela activated the Obraton nationwide, aimed at carrying out 130 works in 130 days and responding to the needs of the communities. In Argentina, teachers organized in the National Federation of the Historical Union set a 48-hour national strike to demand better wages and the reopening of bargaining conditions. Hello and welcome to From the South. My name is Belén de los Santos. I'm from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We'll begin with the news. In Palestine, the Israeli occupation forces have continued their aggression in the Gaza Strip, where in a recent series of new deadly attacks, at least 93 people were killed. The offensive targeted the Al-Adwa hospital in the north of the Palestinian territory, with tanks firing on buildings of the health center, including the specialized surgery department. In addition, earlier on Thursday, rescue teams recovered 13 bodies from under the rubble of two houses bombed by Israel in Jabalia al-Balad in the north of the Palestinian enclave. The number of Palestinians killed by the Zionist regime in Gaza since the onslaught of its offensive in October of 2023 has risen to 53,655, while the number of wounded stands at 121,950. Meanwhile, Israeli occupation forces mounted on Thursday incursions into the occupied West Bank and the whole Gaza Strip, so they not only dropped bombings but also demolished villages, abducted and killed Palestinian civilians. The Israeli troops raided early Thursday Bakat al-Hatab village near Kalkilia city in the West Bank. There, they evicted families from their homes. They even designated a 120 square meter residence of the Abdul Ghani family. In addition, the Palestinian Prisoners Society denounced the abduction of 25 Palestinians, including former inmates and women. Likewise, occupation forces stormed today the Al-Jalazon refugee camp in northern Ramallah and wounded 7 people, including a senior man. Meanwhile, the Israeli offensive in Gaza led to 41 deaths and dozens of injured. And the United Nations reported that it had gathered and shipped about 90 trucks of humanitarian aid inside the Gaza Strip in Palestine. The spokesman for the Secretary General Antonio Guterres, Stefan Dujarric, informed that on Wednesday approximately 90 truckloads of supplies from the Kerem Shalom crossing have been sent to the interior of Gaza. The government also confirmed that 87 truckloads of humanitarian aid have been delivered to various international organizations and to the civil associations responsible for distributing to the population in various areas. Sources in the Palestinian region reported that the trucks have arrived in Gaza through the Kerem Shalom crossing and have begun being distributing flour to several bakeries in the Strip. In the United States, 2 Israeli embassy staff members were shot and killed on Wednesday in Washington, D.C. The deadly shooting occurred at about 9 p.m. local time near the Capitol Jewish Museum in Washington, D.C., according to authorities. The Israeli Foreign Ministry named the 2 victims Yaron Lishinsky and Sarah Lynn Milgram. Pamela Smith, the chief of the Metropolitan Police Department, stated that authorities had arrested a single suspect in the shooting, identified as Elias Rodriguez, a 30-year-old from Chicago, Illinois. Prior to the shooting, the suspect had been observed pacing back and forth outside the museum, and he approached a group of 4 people, pulled out a gun, and opened fire, wounding both of the deceased.
Preliminary investigation indicates that both victims were exiting an event at the Capitol Jewish Museum located in the 500 block of 3rd Street Northwest when the shooting occurred. We believe the shooting was committed by a single suspect who is now in custody. Prior to the shooting, the suspect was observed pacing back and forth outside of the museum. He approached a group of 4 people, produced a handgun, and opened fire, striking both of our decedents. The preliminary...
In other news, in Australia, floods caused by heavy rainstorms in the state of New South Wales have left at least 3 people dead and 1 missing. The body of a 60-year-old woman has been found in floodwaters in the NSW Mid-North Coast, bringing the death toll to 3, with authorities still holding grave fears for another person who is still missing. Earlier, emergency crews found the body of a man in his 30s and another man, 63-year-old, was found near the town of Tare, one of the areas hardest hit by the rainstorm. The regional commissioner of the emergency services, Michael Wassing, informed that the victim had asked for help. However, the rescue teams could not arrive in time. Authorities on Thursday called on the state's residents to remain prepared for an evacuation.
Got an incredibly volatile situation. I said a few days ago that this will break some records, and these aren't the records that you want to break, but we've seen more rain and more flooding in the mid and to north coast area than we've ever seen before. We've seen an impact that's affecting the tens of thousands of people. We've got...
Now we have a short break coming up, but first, remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back from the south. We continue with more information. The government of Venezuela activated the Obraton throughout the national territory with the objective of carrying out 130 works in 130 days and responding to the needs of the communities. The initiative is part of the policy of priority investment in strategic projects in social areas, such as the strengthening of health unit with medical equipment and medicines. It also seeks the remodeling of educational centers and cultural spaces, the integral rehabilitation of the country's main road arteries, among other projects of interest. In this context, the president of Venezuela, Nicolás Maduro, toured the recovered and rehabilitated areas of the Eastern Maternal and Children's Hospital, Dr. Joel Valencia Parparcén, and reaffirm the commitment with the guarantee of the right to health. We stay in Venezuela as the closing of the campaign of the governors and parliamentarians of the Great Patriotic Poll moves forward in the country in view of the May 25th elections. On Wednesday, the campaign began in the state of Barinas, where the candidate for the governorship, Adán Chávez, was supported by the population ahead of Sunday's election. Meanwhile, the candidate for the governorship of the state of Bolívar, Yulisbeth Garcia, also carried out her campaign closing while in El Vigía, state of Mérida. The closing event of the campaign of the candidate Arnaldo Sánchez took place. It is expected that in the next days, the closing of the campaign for Venezuelan parliamentary and regional candidates will continue. In other news, the Constitutional Court of Romania unanimously rejected on Thursday the request filed by former candidate George Simeon against the results of the May 18th presidential elections. The leader of the Alliance for the Union of Romanians lost with 46.4% of the votes against the 53.6% obtained by pro-European Nicu Sordan. Then on Tuesday, Simeon announced his demand for the annulment of the elections in court, citing interference from France, as well as vote buying and the existence of a budget of 100 million euros allocated in Moldova. He alleged many citizens with dual nationality had used to favor his opponent. The Constitutional Court unanimously rejected the request as unfounded, adding that its decision was final. Later on Thursday, Nicu Sordan will assume the presidency of the country in a solemn ceremony. Acting president of the French Guiana Territorial Collectivity, Jean-Paul Ferreira, rejected the announcement by the government of France that it plans to build a high-security prison in the territory. The prison would have the capacity for 500 inmates and is intended to fight drug traffickers and Islamist prisoners. At a cost of 400 million euros, construction is set to begin soon, although there is no definite date yet, and the prison would open in 2028. France's strategy seeks to tackle drug trafficking in a key region of South American routes to Europe, but generates local criticism for its impact. Critics compare the project to Nayib Bukele's anti-human mega prison in El Salvador, questioning its impact on the region and its focus on housing high-profile criminals. In Peru, an exclusive ceremonial sanctuary for the elite is found in Caral, the oldest civilization in the Americas that once bloomed in north of modern Lima. It is a fire altar with an antiquity of about 4,000 years, built on the west side of the pyramidal public upper building. Archaeologists stated private ceremonies had been held there where members of the elite used to burn offerings such as beads, fragments of quartz, fish, mollusks, and agricultural products. The altar was found by the team of investigators of the archaeological zone Caral, SAC, that leads the Peruvian archaeologist Ruth Shady in the sector called Era de Pando. Colombia celebrated Afro-Colombian Day with various cultural activities in several cities to pay tribute to the African heritage in the country. As part of the celebrations in Bogotá, libraries and cultural spaces hosted talks, theater, exhibitions, and concerts by Afro-Colombian groups. In Cali, the mayor's office extended its invitation to citizens to participate in an agenda that promotes Afro-descendants' rights and heritage. Meanwhile, in Barranquilla, there was a scene of the Negros Somos discussion at the Carnival Museum reflecting on cultural identity. And in Cartagena, the Indias, the Afro-Caribe Fest 2025 was held with a focus on dance, music, and ancestral knowledge. And Senegal filled with art with a parade of giant puppets to raise awareness on climate change. This initiative, which is part of the Hertz project, seeks to raise public awareness on the dangers of climate change through a theatrical odyssey that begins in Kinshasa, the capital of the Democratic Republic of the Congo. The show incorporates more than 80 local artists in the creation of life-size puppets of animals such as giraffes and elephants, which parade through the streets of the city of Dakar. With 4 scheduled performances, the Hertz seek to renew the bond between humans and nature, inspiring concrete actions to address the climate crisis. And the Xizang Autonomous Region of China celebrated the traditional Guangwo festival to welcome the next harvest. This event, which has more than 1,500 years of history, gathers the community to perform a ritual that includes dances, horsemen, and barley wine to wish for a bountiful harvest. This festival is celebrated when the crops are about to ripen, especially in the rural areas of the Yarlung-Tampo River and Lhasa. The dates of the festival can vary according to the region due to climatic variations. Therefore, the local monks are in charge of choosing an auspicious day for the celebration. On this day, families dress in festive attires and participate in a large procession. Everyone sings and prays for a successful harvest, surrounded by colorful flags and festive music. We have a second show break coming up, but before we invite you to visit our Facebook page at teleSUR English. There you'll be able to watch our top stories, special live coverages, and much more. Follow the page and activate notifications to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Final short break, don't go away. back to from organized in Argentina. Teachers organized in the National Historical Federation of University Teachers, CONADU, set for this week a 48-hour national strike to demand the reopening of the bargaining negotiations and salary increase. Meanwhile, the students will motivate the non-teaching staff to take the same measures, but for 24 hours for Friday. The students of the University of Buenos Aires are preparing for a mobilization of support that will take place on Thursday from Jose Square to the National Secretariat of Education. The classrooms where the country's future professionals are trained mobilize with the firm decision to continue with the measures of struggle that had already begun last year against the first budget cuts. Also in Argentina, thousands mobilized on Wednesday in Tierra del Fuego during a general strike against the reduction of tariffs on cell phone imports promoted by President Javier Milei. The measure threatens the electronics industry of this province, which benefits from tax exemptions. The decree stipulates the reduction of tariffs from 16% to 8% in the first stage and from 8% to 0% towards January of 2026. The main trade unions grouped in the General Confederation of Workers and led by metal workers unions are staging street demonstrations in the cities of Ushuaia and Rio Grande as a protest against what they consider an attack against the way of life of the people of Tierra del Fuego. And the Argentine series El Eternauta, a story of an apocalypse in Buenos Aires due to toxic snow that has some singularities such as the message of collective struggle and the relationship of its original author with the fight against the last Argentine civic military dictatorship. Our collaborator in Argentina, Ayan Nessi, brings us the report.
The Argentinian series El Eternauta premiered on April 30th, based on the science fiction comic strip created by Héctor Germán Oesterheld, who disappeared during the last Argentinian civic military dictatorship along with his family except for his wife Elsa Sánchez de Oesterheld.
En la época trágica de nuestro país,
in the tragic time of our country, they removed my 4 daughters, my husband, my 2 sons-in-law, and 2 grandchildren of whom I could never know anything, because 2 of the girls were pregnant.
To this day, people are still demanding that those responsible say what happened and where they are. The series is directed by Bruno Estañaro, and only a few days after its premiere, it reached the #1 position in non-English speaking views on the Netflix platform. Estañaro is an Argentinian director known for other series reflecting different moments of the Argentinian economic and political crisis, such as Pisa, Firria and Faso and Ocupas. His career, like most of the actors, actresses, costume designers and technicians who participated in the superproduction of El Eternauta, was forged through projects financed by the National Institute of Cinema and Audiovisual Arts, which today is threatened with closure due to the funding and emptying by the management of Javier Milei.
Compañeras, compañeros, esta película recién empieza.
Me pone muy feliz que se haya hecho acá con el trabajo de argentinos y argentinas.
I am very happy it was made here, with the work of Argentines to tell and think about science fiction from our country and not as something from outside, for example from the United States. I am happy.
El Eternauta takes up the Argentinian culture, language, customs, faith, musical variety, locations, and even the Maldivas war.
El Eternauta es para mí como argentino.
This show is for me, as an Argentinian, a source of pride, almost as if it were the World Cup we won.
Y me sentí como estamos viviendo ahora.
And I felt like what we're going through now. All these things that are happening, that I don't like. Then you identify how the whole system is now, with the new changes.
While a cognitive battle that exacerbates individualism, dehumanization, and personal salvation is being waged, the massiveness achieved by El Eternauta is a strong invitation to reflect on the human condition.
No one is saved alone.
The message is precise. No one is safe alone, and the only hero is the collective hero. Ayan Nessi for teleSUR Argentina.
Hundreds of residents and miners marched on Wednesday in Trujillo to demand greater security in one of Peru's most crime-ridden cities. The peaceful protest took place 16 days after the murder of 13 workers at a gold mine in Patas. Some miners marched with white helmets as a badge and carried signs reading "No more death, no more crime, and no to extortion." 13 workers linked to the Poderosa mine, one of the big mining companies in Peru, were found dead on May 4th in a gold mine shaft. Patas was declared in a state of emergency since February of 2024 due to the escalation of violence linked to gold mining. Organizations in Guatemala have denounced the murder of environmental defenders who systematically criticized the illegal extraction of natural resources in the Sierra de las Minas Biosphere Reserve. On May 9th, environmental defender Marco Antonio Zuleta Quevedo was attacked with a firearm. He had previously filed a complaint with the public prosecutor's office after receiving death threats via telephone. The Sierra de las Minas Biosphere Reserve denounced Zuleta's crime. It attributes it to people or groups with interests contrary to conservation and biodiversity who seek to exploit natural resources illegally and to the detriment of the Guatemalan people. And in Mexico, a huge blast consumed the facilities of a fuel distribution company in the state of Nuevo León. Authorities reported that the fire started at 2 p.m. local time on Wednesday, raising some 13 containers with more than 10,000 liters of capacity belonging to the Maravsvin Corp, which distributes gasoline and diesel nationwide. In this context, 11 people had been evacuated from the site and one injured person had been taken to a hospital. Meanwhile, Director of the Fire Department, Eric Cavazos, informed that operations to fight off the flames have lasted for over 3 hours. And like this, we have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. Also join us on social media. We are on Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok as well. For TeleSUR English, my name is Belén de los Santos. Thank you for watching.